Hey guys, my name is Brian Taylor, and I want to talk a little bit today about give a little bit of an introduction about who I am, and talk a little bit about Eric Weingartner's CAM Challenge. First of all, I live up here in Saskatchewan, which is in Western Canada, and I believe that it's one of the best places in the world to live. It's a really big province with not very many people. And I live out on an acreage, and I have a little home-based business called the Rocket Shop, where I build a couple engines a year. I sell speed parts, I do auto repairs, and I have a little wrecking yard with around 100 cars. It's by the grace of God that I am where I am, and I do the things that I do, and I'm so thankful. To start my story, I grew up not far from here on my mom and dad's farm, and I'm very blessed. We actually didn't farm. My dad was into steel and metal and welding and manufacturing, and I learned how to weld when I was young, and I started off building garbage cans, like the big ones that the trucks pick up and dump. And soon after, I did a contract of building 100 of those, I think. I got a job making hopper bottoms for grain bins. I did that for a couple of years, and then I became an auto mechanic. I did that for 6 years for a repair shop in town. I got my journeyman ticket, and everything in my life is by God's planning and will, not a lot to do with my good direction or wisdom. It was by the grace of God. I did that for 6 years, I think, and then I went back to building hopper bottoms, and I did that for another 10 or 12 years, and this is a big part of my story. I got paid really well doing that, and after 10 or 12 years of doing that, I was making the same kind of money that oil field guys normally make, but I was doing it living in my own house, living at home, being back in my own bed every night. Whereas the oil field guys do it from living on the road, and it's not a good lifestyle. But I wasted lots of money in those days. I've always been a car guy, and when I was making the big money welding, I wasted tons of money on Cadillac 500 engines. That was one of the big mistakes. I wish I would have never touched those things. But some guys love them, and more power to them. But I didn't have a good experience with them. But the one smart thing I did is I got out of debt. I paid off my mortgage. I paid off every lick of debt that I had from building this shop, from buying this hoist that you might see in the picture. And I'm thankful for that. And that has allowed me to have a speed shop in Western Canada, where it's a tough go to make a living having a speed shop, because though living in a province with not many people is sure nice, it's not the greatest place to have a speed shop and try and make a living. But because I don't have no debt, I'm very thankful for that, and I enjoy doing the auto wrecking. And I enjoy drag racing at Saskatchewan International Raceway in Saskatoon. That's a little bit about who I am and where I came from. And I'm thankful for all those things. When I was building the hopper bottoms, I did that for 10 or 12 years, as I said. And by the end of that, I had come to hate it. Even though I was making really good money, I'd come to hate it and be tired of it. And one winter, I only did it during the spring and summer and fall, and I took the winters off because the shop that we worked in was cold, and it would have been expensive to heat it. So it was just a summer job, and that's when the demand is for hopper bottoms, is during the summer. And so one winter, I prayed all winter long. I said, God, I don't want to do this no more. I said, when my boss calls me in the spring to go back to work, I'm going to say yes because I don't want to back out on him. He's a good friend and an awesome guy, and he was very good to me. I don't want to say no to him because he needs me, but I don't want to do it no more. I hate it. I'm tired of it. My body was getting worn out, and I prayed all winter long about that. And that spring, my boss called me and he said, "Are you ready to come back to start making hopper bottoms again?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, we'll start on Monday then." And that was on like a Tuesday that he called me. So the following Monday we were to go back to work. And a day or two later, I got a call from my father-in-law, who lives not far from where the shop was that we worked. And he said, "Come quick, the shop is on fire." And my wife was away that day, and I looked around at what vehicles I had here, and I had my truck, which was out of gas, and my wife was away with the car, and I had no way of getting there. I had no gas, no vehicle. And I said, "Well, I can't come right now. I don't even have a vehicle to get there." And he said, "Well, I'm going up to the shop to try and help put out the fire." And he called me back a couple hours later and said the shop was gone. It had burnt to the ground. And at that moment, I lifted up my hand and I thanked God that I was done and that he had answered my prayer. But at the same time, I was sad for my boss. He was a hard-working man who was very good to me and worked and was good to work for. And that year, which I believe was 2013 or 14, I decided, and I already had this little shop that I had built with some of the money I'd made, and I'd borrowed some money. I decided I'm going to go it on my own. I'm not getting another job. I decided I'm done working for somebody else. And at that time also, I was doing a little ministry in the evenings for young people, where I'd teach them about cars and engines and hot rods especially, and then have a little Bible study at the end of it. And I've done it for about 10 years now. And when the shop burned down and I decided to go it on my own, that very first year, I made $5,000. I had no money to start the year. I had credit card debt, and I made $5,000. How do you live off $5,000 for a year? It's by the grace of God is how. Because you know what? I never starved. God was good to me. My grandmother died that year, and she left me $5,000. I had a Mustang that I'd built a couple of years before that had a big block Chevy swap in it. It was just a street car, and I'd been trying to sell it for a long time, and I couldn't seem to sell it. I was asking $7,500 for it, and that spring, a guy came along and pulled out the money and bought it. And that year, my parents decided to take our whole family on a trip to Disneyland. So the year that I had no money and I lost my income, I went to Disneyland. I had unexpected money come from my grandma passing away and from selling that Mustang. And that fall, I took my family on a road trip to Tofino, and we camped and we had an amazing time. And God was so good to us. Some people that we met at a church there took us out on their yacht, salmon fishing. It was one of the most amazing things in the world. That fishing trip would have cost me hundreds of dollars, but I got it for free because of God's goodness. So, I just want to praise God for those things. And that's a little bit of my story and where I came from. I could probably talk all day. But to try and make this video a little shorter, I want to talk a little bit about the Eric's Cam Challenge and how I became a part of it. I'm sure no one recognizes me on his list of people that submitted cams. There's some big name guys on there that have been doing this all their life that know 1,000 times more than I do. I am by no means an expert on choosing cams or anything like that. My method of choosing cams is to talk to people that are smarter than me. I mean, the few engines that I build a year, usually 1 or 2 a year. And I've been doing this for 10 years. And most of my customers, they don't come to me for making the most extreme amount of power they can. They come to me because they want a street engine that's going to run and drive and work good and squeal the tires a little bit. They're not looking for serious drag racing engines to try and make the absolute most power that they can. They just want a reliable, good engine with a respectable amount of power to have fun with and to drive to car shows. So, you know, for 90% of the builds that I do, I can just pick a cam out of a catalog. But when I'm trying to do my best as far as making the very best power that I can, I'll talk to people. I'll fill out cam recommendation forms. I'll phone people and talk to people that are way smarter than me and have way more experience than I do. That's my method. As far as the cam challenge, you know, I would never have been a part of it except for some circumstances happened that are kind of cool. When Eric first posted about that, I thought that's cool what he's doing, and I liked the idea. And at that time, this Mustang came back into my life. So I told you a little bit about the Rocket Shop School of Performance Ministry that I did and still am doing. We did some project cars for young people to kind of teach them about cars and give us something to work on. And the second project car we did, the first car was a 78 Pontiac Le Mans that we put a 383 small block Chevy in, and it eventually ran 11s at the racetrack, and all the kids got to drive it. We had a lot of fun and learned a lot. And it was all on donated money. People gave money, the kids themselves gave money, my church gave some money. And the second car that we did was this Mustang. This was a 6-cylinder Mustang that we bought, already painted the way you see it. I think we paid 800 bucks for the car. And we had a vote about what engine we wanted to put in it. And the kids voted to put an LS into it, which is what I would have never have chosen that. I'm a big block Chevy guy. I would have put a big block Chevy in it without even thinking. But they wanted to put a LS into it because that's all the rage with the kids. And then we voted whether we should have it carbureted or fuel injected. And I would have chosen carbureted hands down because I'm an old tech kind of guy. I like carburetors, but they voted to do EFI. So we bought a 6-liter from a junkyard out of an Escalade. And then we bought another 6-liter that had the L92 rectangle port heads on it. And we swapped the L92 heads onto the 6-liter that had the flat top pistons. And we bought a cam to put in it, and just a shelf cam. And tried to keep the factory fuel injection from the Escalade by using the HP Tuner software to tune the computer, and that was a nightmare. We never did get the thing running right. We had it so it would sit there and idle, but it never ran right. The car never drove anywhere. The car still needed a few things, and to be honest with you, the kids kind of ran out of steam on building it, and the car was given away. There was one of the fellows that was part of the club that donated by far the most amount of money to it, and so I gave him the car, and I just wanted it to go away. I never want to see that car again. It was a lot of pain for me, because I had poured so much heart and soul into it, and then to kind of run out of gas on building it. It was kind of a shame. But 5 years later, my son, who's now 17, I have 2 sons and a daughter, and my middle son suddenly got to thinking about that car and talked to the guy that bought it, or that we gave it to, and asked if he could buy it. And he sold it to us at a really good price. And my son suddenly, and I'm very happy about this, my son suddenly taken an interest in hot rodding and drag racing and wants this car. So lo and behold, this car came back into my life, and it wasn't finished, and we sold the EFI stuff off of it, and I got to thinking, that cam that's in there, let's pull that out and send it to Eric. Let's be part of the cam challenge. And you know, this cam was kind of, the cam that was in this motor that we bought was kind of all wrong for what we were doing. And it was based on my thinking of a small block Chevy, not an LS, because I'm not an LS expert by any means. I'm studying and learning now. But so we pulled this cam out of this motor and shipped it to Eric. And you know, I don't expect to win. There's lots smarter guys in the cam challenge than me who will have custom ground cams. Mine's just a cam off the shelf. But to be honest with you, it's way more cam than this motor needs. But it will be closer for Eric's motor, which is kind of cool. So that's a little bit about who I am. That's a little bit about how I chose my cam for the cam challenge. And maybe I'll make more videos. I was kind of a little bit inspired to make this video today because I seen Brian Salter's video where he's sitting in front of his son's Mustang talking about it. And so I guess I'm a bit of a copycat. But after watching that video, I respected what he's been through and what he's done. And I just wanted to share my story. So that's it. Thanks for watching.